Hey, welcome. I just want to highlight one thing that's still happening this afternoon and then take any questions you have. At 3 p.m. we'll be having our second economic development group, select committee, and look forward to that. I'll be naming Kristen Thompson as the vice chair. I'll be the chair of it. We're bringing in Commerce to answer questions. They're going to give a presentation at the first and then open it up to questions, and then we'll go chart the path forward. I'm going to name some subcommittees to it so they can start focusing on different areas and appoint those members today. And so hope y'all can be up there and open it up to any questions y'all may have.
Can we talk a little bit about the LEAD Act money goes back into general revenue, right? I mean, nothing's changed with that, right?
It's my understanding that Commerce has been in discussions with the company that's looking at that has submitted an application. Whether or not they've effectuated a binding contract or not, I'm not aware yet.
Oh, so it's possible that somebody may, by tomorrow morning, have...
Yes, it is possible from my understanding. You know, a couple of weeks ago I was asked if it was going back, and I said I thought that there was going to be somebody applying for it. They have applied for it, but Commerce has all the details. I don't have all the details on that.
And that's Project Ocean that applied for it?
I think it's got a different name now, but my understanding it's similar.
But they haven't told you? Like, you're the head of the...
I've received some information, but I don't have contracts in front of me, so I can't speak to the validity of whether or not it meets the letter of the law to tie up that money or not.
Sorry, please. On this topic, please. Okay. If the money does revert to the general revenue fund on Saturday, how would you like to see that spent?
First off, we need to be very cautious on whatever we spend this year. We have $1.1 billion over last year's authority, but we still see declining projections in the third and fourth quarter. We've seen natural gas go down $2.22 a couple days ago, and it's projected at $2.77 in the budget process. That's one-time money, and so we would not want to do some kind of ongoing expense with that money. Hopefully, we invested that money last year to be able to get economic development. It's my hope that we actually land economic development with that.
On Project Sirius, is there a package? I know the governor has said that he needs the legislator on board in order for it to go by, and he's like, I'm on board, I just need the legislator to get on board, and he's been told that group that yesterday. I think I caught you. Is there a package? Is there any kind of specifics you can share? Because I'm just...
We have told the governor we'll go along with what he wants to do to land that company, and that the Senate leadership is completely on board, as long as there aren't any ancillary issues that he wants us to agree to or anyone else wants us to agree to in addition to that. But getting Sirius here, landing that, and doing the legislation that may be needed for that, we're committed to it.
Do you know what exactly it is that he needs?
There's a package that's been floated around. I don't have all those details at hand, but the Senate, we have met with the governor for an extended period of time to talk about that.
And last on this, is negotiations still ongoing as to what exactly this package will look like?
Negotiations on Sirius?
I'm serious.
We've been told what it's going to take, and so there's not a whole lot of negotiations. It's more of this is what the package is going to look like, and the Senate leadership, including myself, signed a letter and gave it to the governor yesterday.
What's it going to take? NDA for that project?
No.
What's it going to take? You said you've been told what it's going to take.
Yeah, it's going to take some resources akin to the LEAD Act, just a smaller amount of money.
Involving property, the manufacturing.
You know what, we front-loaded quality jobs and incentive last time. I can't go into all the details just because I don't have them all at the ready. But it's something that looked very attractive to us.
You mentioned ancillary issues, and I think last year there was a bit of a kerfuffle, maybe it was 2 years ago, where there was frustration about things being tied together that didn't necessarily tie together. On the other hand, I think this in some ways does reflect tax policy, is what the House has said a little bit. Can you elaborate on the ancillary issues statement that you made?
We're not going to agree to any other unrelated bill to get this through. We are agreeing to getting the economic development landed and do what that takes, but no ancillary issues tied to it.
Is the House trying to tie tax cuts to this?
I'll let the House speak for itself, but y'all are clever people.
Is there a possibility that there could be two economic incentive packages that go through, that you may spend the LEAD Act money plus additional money on another company?
If we could land both employers, there's that potential, yes.
Do we have the money to do that and give, fund, say, these education package royalty
Well,
and other priorities in the state?
That's one of the reasons you saw the Senate take a reduction in the overall cost on the education, put more into public and reduce the private side a little bit because we are concerned about recurring revenue. As far as one-time money, we're still flush with one-time cash. We could do those.
You had 2 days worth of meetings with the governor and the speaker according to the governor's public calendar. How'd those conversations go? Did you inch closer to an agreement? Do you feel more confident than you did before? Still problems?
There's still issues, but we've had ongoing discussions with a group of senators, a group of House members, and the governor's team. I have enunciated that I want to have those meetings in the open. Shared that with the governor, and he indicated some support of that. So I hope that we can actually have you all and the public in those negotiations at some point.
Given your concerns about recurring revenue, does that mean tax cuts are unlikely this session?
It means that if you're going to tie a tax cut or anything else to any ancillary policy, we're not going to go for that. We're not going to be leveraged on something like that. If at the end of the day we set our priorities on spending on medical needs, on infrastructure needs, on education, which is the biggest boulder, and we still have the financial wherewithal, we're open to those, but we're not going to know that until we get an agreement, especially on the education package.
Are there certain points education-wise that you're not willing to negotiate on?
We're negotiating both, 1935 and 2775. We made our opening negotiation were the bills themselves, and they stand on their own merit. They are extremely well thought out, and that's our opening position. But we're negotiating all points. Having an income limit was extremely important to my caucus and the ability to get it done. But I haven't said anything is off the table to discuss.
You said you're not under a non-disclosure agreement for Project Sirius. What company is that?
Yeah, I'm not under non-disclosure, but I'm not going to be the one that says that.
You can read my story.
No, I wanted to confirm it.
Yeah.
Is there a total number for the education package? Is there a total number that you want to basically cap out at, and you don't want to see the number climb over that?
Well, I think there's an overall number under that 1.1 billion of recurring that I don't want to go over on recurring expenses. Education would be the biggest chunk of that. We had a $630 million package. Well, it was actually about 640 when we added Career Tech and DOC and OJA into it. So that's where we are comfortable around 640.
Both chambers tied up the $600 million that the Healthcare Authority had in the enhanced FMAP money. I know it's not been too long since you did that, but there have been discussions about what types of things you'd like to see that used for. The agency has referred to transformative concepts or transformative ideas.
No, we haven't had a lot of discussions on that yet. I think that was a conversation with the appropriators on both sides saying that they needed to get a handle on what the actual plan was and making sure it didn't obligate the state long-term on expenses, recurring expenses, and so I look forward to those ideas. We have talked about that money in the past. I did talk to a couple people associated with the Healthcare Authority about their ideas, and we'll entertain those as well.
How much is too much to spend on economic development? A lot of Oklahomans have a lot of competing priorities right now. They only have a limited amount of money, so I mean, what is the max the Senate's willing to spend?
I think we'll take it an issue at a time. We've already obligated the 698. It's sitting there drawing interest, and then some much lesser amount on this Project Sirius. But if we can see a real economic return on these, we'll look at them on their merit. Obviously, you reach a point where you don't have any more, you don't feel comfortable spending the cash, and we haven't reached that point.
The rhetoric back and forth between House and Senate on education has been a little spicy, I guess. Is there any concern, or do you have confidence that there will be an education plan that moves forward?
I have confidence the Senate is committed to delivering on school choice and a robust teacher pay raise. I can't speak for the other parties.
You used the word issues before to describe your conversations with the governor and the speaker regarding education. What are those issues that are still, you think, holding it up?
1935 and 2775 and the details therein.
Can you be any more specific?
No, we obviously had a much different teacher pay. Theirs was $2,500 only to classroom teachers. Ours went up to $6,000, from $3,000 to $6,000, depending on years of service, for all certified personnel. So that includes speech pathologists, reading specialists, all of that. They obviously have a much a disparate treatment of the way they treat regional and urban and suburban schools versus rural in the other bill, and so we're trying to negotiate through those.
Do you have any interest in running for governor in 2026?
2026? No, I'm not running for governor in 2026.
If I, at the risk of harshing your buzz, can I ask you about marijuana? Following the
Do we get that, David?
failure of SQ 820 pretty resoundingly, now as a lot of the marijuana bills and ideas are kind of moving through, did that vote change the feeling in your caucus? I know your caucus has long had concerns about enforcement and law enforcement ability to be involved in this. Where does that stand? What changed or what didn't after that vote?
Well, we want to make sure we don't misread the tea leaves. Obviously, there was a rebuke of the state question, but there's still a lot of license holders, so we've got to strike that balance. I've got Senator Garvin and Senator Coleman running point for the Senate on those issues. They're doing a tremendous job. Senator Paxton did a great job before, and Senator Lee Wright. But yeah, the concerns you enunciated, we still have. We're trying to push legislation to that end, but you don't want to overreact on a state question going down, but you do see that there's a will to make modifications to make the industry safer and more responsive.
I wanted to just switch topics to, some of your Republican colleagues have voiced concerns about the amount of rhetoric coming from the state superintendent over issues that perhaps aren't as important as, public funding, teacher shortage, that kind of thing. Do you share some of those concerns, and what do you think about the job that Ryan Walters has done in his first few months on the job?
I don't have a really good set of metrics to judge the job he's done. The rhetoric doesn't match the type of rhetoric I like to have. I ran Ryan Walters' nomination the last time. He's a constituent of mine. Our kids go to the same school district. I have a friendship with him. You obviously saw the Attorney General. It wasn't an official opinion, but an advisory opinion to me. I took that seriously and wanted to weigh against that, what the governor's team told us, and they obviously went a different direction, but I did share that I had that opinion with the governor and his team a couple weeks ago. You see how I handle myself. I'm not one that likes a real fiery rhetoric on most things, and so I wish that we could get down into the details of trying to deliver on school choice and real teacher pay raise. And I think he could be an effective voice in that if he chose to do so.
On the, just back to Project Sirius, I saw you mention the Quality Jobs Incentive Program. Is that part of the package? Would be that Quality Jobs money?
Well, like the LEAD Act, it's front-loaded the cash that would have been available through Quality Jobs plus a kicker, and the investment tax credit plus a kicker, and that's a similar type setup that we're contemplating.
So it basically kind of like what you said. It's very similar to the LEAD Act, just a smaller amount.
Scaled down.
Okay.
What are the odds right now that the House and the Senate don't reach an agreement on a comprehensive education package? What would you put the odds at?
I don't like to put odds on those things. I don't feel real hopeful this week based on progress, but we're in April and I've been through this enough that we'll have a breakthrough, hopefully, if all parties really want to get to the goals that they say they do. I know we're committed to giving parents more choice and to infusing a large amount of money into the public school system. And so we're operating in good faith, and I hope the others are as well.
Is there a chance teachers won't get a raise and there won't be more money put in the student funding formula this year?
We'll have to pass the budget. This is all contingent on that, and we're committed to trying to deliver on this.
Berkeley, we got time for a couple more.
You mentioned, you floated the notion that perhaps the speaker may not, be as committed to school choice efforts as he lets on. And did the meetings over this week lead you to have more speculation about that, or did you get any confidence that he really does want to get this thing through?
I don't know. You know, in the past, I've talked about if he's really committed to it, he'll negotiate. I think what you're referring to was when he said no changes would be acceptable, and I said that if you're trying to set yourself up for not having school choice, that's a good way to do it. We're negotiating. He's showing up, and his team, but I don't want to cast aspersion on him. I know where our heart is. I know where my heart is, and I know where my caucus is. And we're committed to trying to deliver on both the infusion of money into the public school system, into teachers' pockets in particular, and a fair and equitable way to do that, plus giving parents more choice.
Just want to clarify, the state budget's going to be several $billions, and this education stuff definitely isn't that much. How much of the negotiations over this education package is tying up everything else that's going on?
It's taking all the air out of the room on all other negotiations, without a doubt. But it's small when you just look at the addition. The education budget overall is a gargantuan part of our budget. And so trying to solve that is the biggest piece of the puzzle, and then you start filling in after that.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.